Welcome back, everyone, to the Cancel for Maintenance podcast. My name is Six, and we are, if this is your first time joining us, we're a show that takes a behind-the-scenes look into the non-glamorous life of aircraft maintenance. We share some laughs, impart some wisdom, and all in hopes of giving you a split seconds relief in your day that can hopefully prevent a mishap. I am currently riding solo as far as the hosting side is concerned. MVP and Shoreline are off on the side, making sure our voices stay fit for radio. But we do have a guest on hand with us. He is currently a professor at the San Bernardino Valley College. He has a really long and illustrious aviation maintenance career, and it shows just how much the opportunities of having an airframe and power plant certificate can really just help set you on a very illustrious career path, so to speak. His journey, he started with the Marine Corps as a helicopter mechanic. His journey then took him into the regional aviation side with SkyWest and Waypoint, and scaled to new heights at SpaceX as an R&D integration technician, and then returning back to aircraft maintenance at Executive Jet Maintenance. He's a lifelong learner. He holds degrees in aviation maintenance management and education. He's even taught as a special education teacher. Now he serves as a faculty chair for the aeronautics department at San Bernardino Valley College. He oversees aviation maintenance programs, engages in the academic senate, and he collaborates with industry stakeholders to mentor student teams for competitions such as the aerospace maintenance competition. Happy to have you on board. Let's get ready to be inspired and hear him share his journey and insights. Mr. Francisco Gonzalez. Welcome, Francisco.
Hey, Six. I know that was a long intro, and thank you for not butchering it and just cutting it short, because I know I sent you over like a little bio. But no, I'm just happy to be here on the Cancel for Maintenance podcast. I know you guys are doing big things. I've heard a handful of episodes of you guys, and I'm just admired how your authenticity with aircraft maintenance inspired you guys to start your own podcast and talk about the issues in the aircraft maintenance field. So thank you for having me on, Six. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, the honor is us, man. I read through your bio, man, and it was a lot. It was a lot of great. Yeah. It was a lot of great stuff. I mean, it's it was hard to really kind of absorb all of it and crunch it down to something that's just that captures the moment, but not a gloss over it. And some of the stuff you in your bio, actually, it makes me reminiscent about a lot of stuff. For example, with starting out in the Marine Corps as a helicopter mechanic. I also, for those of you out there, started out in the Marine Corps as a helicopter mechanic. So, Francisco, let's jump into this, going on to the history of it all.
But I remember, you know what? And I don't want to interrupt you, Sis, because that's an important point on both of our careers, because I know we touched on it in a previous discussion that we had, but you worked on helicopters in the Marine Corps on which platform?
I worked on H1s, Cobras and Hueys.
Okay, same. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. That we were. So I think I was in from 2010 to about 2015-ish out of Camp Pendleton on the Cobras and Hueys as well. But I think we were at different squadrons, right? You were at 3.
Yes. I was I bounced around a lot, but when I was in my primary platform, I was at 267 for the first couple years of my career. And then towards the end, I was with 367. And at that point, when I went back to 367, or actually when I went back to helicopter maintenance, they were in Hawaii at the time. So that was a fun tour.
That's right. Yes. I remember. Okay, so just so everyone knows, I was at Six was at what we call Victor Squadrons, and for those of you that don't know what a Victor Squadron, I was at a training squadron. I was at HMLAT 303, which is our main mission was to train the helicopter pilots, right? And so, without getting too deep into it, you were at an actual deployable squadron that they deployed every once in a while on deployment. So our missions were the same with aircraft maintenance, but it just, I would say the pace and the mindset was different. But for those of you that don't know, okay, and I don't want to throw us under the same umbrella, Six, because it might not be that for you, but having military military aviation, specifically in the Marines, and that being my first go at like aviation. Um, I don't want to say shape my outlook on aviation, but it kind of did at at the beginning, whether negative or positive, right?
Hmm.
Just want to throw out there that when you're in that world, you're essentially shoved into like aviation,
Hmm.
right?
It's very like learn on your feet kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I wouldn't say learn as you go, but like the learning curve from zero experience to hey, we entrust you of our lives
yes,
is
yes,
very sharp. It's a very sharp
yes,
curve.
yeah,
I can recall from my first time. Now that you brought it up, like fresh into school, I've never when I went to the technical school to teach me how to do aircraft maintenance. I have never seen an airplane up close other than riding inside it.
hmm
I didn't know what components did what. I was mechanically inclined, obviously because of how I got to aircraft maintenance, but
hmm
I didn't know what components did what, right? And then you go through the technical school and whatnot, then you go to your first duty station, and from that point on, you're just expected to know. And I mean, the other shop technicians around, they obviously know you don't know anything, but
hmm
the other individuals like the pilots, the air crew, and other personnel, they expect you to know what you're doing when you put hands on that airplane. So like when they come ask you for stuff, it kind of gives you that deer in the headlight look, like, oh crap, I actually have to know this.
yes, and you have to
So,
either learn, you have to learn on your feet, and so that's where, and I don't, mean to interrupt you, Six, but that's where like I tell my students, I'm like, if you're, I know right now you're recording like the Zoom session, but if you're watching my background right here, I have a Duke behind me, right? That pre-flight, right, is
mhm,
drastically different than a pre-flight on an attack, um, Cobra helicopter, right? That pre-flight over there consists of like checking your 50 cal, making sure it's good, right?
mhm,
As we're here, it's like I'm gonna take a fuel sample. I'm not saying you don't do both, but like it's a different mindset. Like over there, it's like, hey, this is like the real deal here. This
yep,
is like we're actually like, like you're flying in both worlds, but um, without getting too deep into it, one's transportation, one's actually for like mission, right? So
right.
it's
But
just it's just like crazy, you know.
yeah, but given that, right, because of that fundamental shift in mindset, how did that prepare you for the next chapter and then on?
Okay, so yes, so getting in, so and I brought that up because getting into starting my aviation maintenance career as a helicopter mechanic, um, in the Marine Corps specifically, it's you learn on your feet. And so while that may sound good, it's just a lot of information. It's a lot of like it's a lot of trust that the organization puts on you, even from starting as a plane captain, moving your way up to inspector, to collateral duty inspector, to like QA, quality assurance, and then eventually maybe down the line running the whole what is it called, maintenance control, right?
Hmm.
um but I would say the learning curve is steep right there. If you're not learning, like you're like, when I went in, and I tell this to my students, I grew up in like, and this, I want you to get a like glance of my life, okay? When I grew up in like Southern California, specifically like Los Angeles metro area, um during the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, like shop class wasn't pushed in high school, right? Like it wasn't like, yeah, like I saw a couple of students that were like in the automotive class, but I think my high school only had like one program like that was shop focused, and I think it was automotive. They may have had like a like carpenter class or like a woodworking class, but long story short, that was not the focus of like my high school life, right? When I
Hmm.
graduated high school, I had aspired to be like a musician. Like I was in marching band. That was like my dream like job like at the time. Um, but to cut a long story short, I was like typical like, and I don't want to use this language, but I'm gonna use it. I was like typical like I don't know, like douchebag, I guess, right? Like I don't know how to change my own tire, right?
Hmm.
And like growing up, my dad was a like a truck driver. We had like a humble upbringing,
Hmm.
but the focus wasn't like like, do your own maintenance. He had a work to provide. He was always busy. I was in school. They trusted my school to teach me my academics, but school at that point was more like academic based. It was like, hey, go to a traditional 4 year, not necessarily like your shop class, right? So anyways, long story short, when I got to the Marine Corps, it was like a reality check. It was like, hey, this is how you use tools. This is a 3/8 wrench. This is a 7/16 wrench, right? And if you
Mm-hmm.
didn't know, right, and I'm sure you know this, Six, there's always that gopher guy like that. You know, in the Marine Corps, the new guy, they didn't call them new guys. I don't know about you guys, but they called us nuggets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kid that to my students because I'm like, they're like, they called you nuggets, and I'm like, yes, they call us nuggets. And even though you would think it was like a like term of like endearment, it was not a term of endearment. It was like the new guy. Like it's as if in aviation they called you green, right?
Yep.
So, or like they call you like, if you have like your crew, you're you're the gopher. Or like, what does gopher mean? Well, you go for this, go for that, right? So if you didn't know what it, if your lead mechanic goes like, hey, give me a, if he's on top of the aircraft helicopter and he has his cranial on and they're on there like fixing the blades, taking them off or putting them on or whatever, and if they ask you for like a 7/16 wrench and you go in the toolbox and you're the gopher and you don't know what a 7/16 wrench, you're gonna learn real quick what that wrench is. Right?
Yes.
You're gonna learn real quick without getting too crazy into it. You're gonna just know that there will be wrenches flying. Right?
Yep.
So that's the way that I got brought up into maintenance. So I had to like, it's either like you learn or you get left behind, right? And if you want to do good at your job, if you want to be, like a good soldier, good Marine, good maintainer, you have to learn your tools like fast, right?
Yep.
Um, in the Marine Corps though, they're very platform focused. Like if you're, like in our example, we were 6114. That was, or were you like an airframer or were you like power plant or
No,
avionics?
no, I was you nailed it. I was a 6114 too.
Okay. Okay. So like same thing, like you're essentially like all around mechanic. Like you have to know like your airframe systems, not too detailed, but enough to get by, right?
Yep.
So it's so anyways, where was I going? Okay, so they're very platform focused on like the Hueys, the Cobra, and that is it, right?
Mm-hmm.
As where traditionally in a vocational school that teaches aircraft maintenance, they teach you general concepts that could be applied to like a broad base of like general aviation aircraft, kind of like this Duke right here or this helicopter, like broad mechanic focused concepts that you will learn in like in a traditional like vocational program, but not platform specific. And so that being said, that is the lens that I got brought up viewing aircraft maintenance was just kind of like being yelled at, learn as you go, like you figure it out, and then you do your job right. As we're in the aircraft tech school, it's like, hey, you learn like, I don't want to say it's an enriching environment, but as a professor, I I don't expect my students to know what a 7/16 wrench. I don't expect them to know what a 3/8 wrench because in my eyes they were like me when I was younger. So I kind of, I don't want to say baby step them, but I kind of like progress them as they go on through their training. So I think that's the biggest shit that I had to overcome. Like there's a military regiment aviation maintenance world, and then there's the civilian populace, which is like it's you like take more of your time,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I'm glad that you brought that up because the learning environment we had was, or at least for people who have had some military experience, it was very harsh. And
Hmm.
again, like you said, like the learning curve is very steep. So that means like you have such a limited window of being
Hmm.
able to learn something. Or I'm sorry, not a limited window, but a very strict window. You have to thread the needle like this every single time. And like you were saying, for the Marine Corps specifically, it's very platform focused. It's you will know the ins and outs of this plane like the back of your hand,
Hmm.
or because that's all you're exposed to for the most part. And then switching sides with this with a lot of the civilian side, and you can attest to this. Um, we we don't so much we only focused on the platform itself long down the road, right?
Hmm.
And then these two different learning environments, it kind of it sticks to your brain different. And so like you were saying, like you got to baby step them. And the reason why I think this is such a fundamental thing is because uh nowadays learning is so uh I wouldn't say underutilized, but it's it's not a primary focus nowadays, especially for something like trades. It's very much like just get the smarts up and relative to like the core academics, but as far as like applying these core knowledge concepts to something, it's not very well focused. I guess that's the word I'm trying to, or the thread I'm trying to pull here. Like um, let's have you understand what it's for first before we start having you put your hands on it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, like let's have you understand the system before you take it off, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So like if you were to see your 18-year-old self
Mhm.
like sitting across from you today before picking up a wrench and whatnot, what advice would you give him or someone like him?
Okay. But I want to go back on the last question because I know you asked me how did each like step prepare you for the next step?
Hmm.
And you know what? At the time, you don't understand what you're going through because there's a lot of points in my maintenance career where I'm like, why am I the new guy? Why am I going through this? Why am I in the middle? Why did I sign up for this willingly, right?
Hmm.
Uh, um, but then like every position I've had, every career progression I've had, it's not until this point where I'm like, oh, that's why. Like I was because I've been the new guy several times, like learning different systems. There's like different, you mentioned like R&D at SpaceX. You mentioned like, working at executive jet, like charter, like on Gulfstreams, G4, G5s. You mentioned general aviation, like I worked on Beechcraft, Cessnas, 172s, right? A36s. Then at SkyWest, 200, 700, like 900. Um, so it's funny because like I'd always think, man, like when am I going to be a good mechanic, right? Going through those different steps. But
Hmm.
it wasn't until like I started teaching that I'm like, man, like something prepared me to be in that position at that time. I didn't know why, but now I know this system to pass on to my students. So so to answer your question, I think each chapter in my maintenance career prepared me for the next, like without even knowing it. And
Hmm.
going back to my 18-year-old self, um, like when I when I went through my career, I was very like hard pressed, like hard charger on like getting to the next thing, finishing my bachelor's, getting my MP, getting my master's. But I would say just like tell myself trust the process. Like you will be
Yes.
successful. Just enjoy what's in front of you. Yeah, it's hard and there's gonna be long nights and long shifts and long whatever, and you're gonna have like sleepless days where you're doing maintenance at 2 in the morning and
Hmm.
you're gonna question why did I sign up for this? But enjoy that time because you're never gonna get that time again, you
Yes.
know?
I love the
So
fact. I
yeah,
love the fact that our brains synced up the second you said that. Like,
yeah,
yep, that's it. That's
mhm,
literally it. Because
yeah,
there's many times like you mentioned there's times where it's gonna suck and it's gonna
yeah,
suck a lot, but you don't realize just how fast and how much you're processing or how much you're progressing just because
mhm.
you're so focused on what's the
On the
negative,
next goal or something, yeah, or the
right?
negative of the next goal, yeah.
Yep. And but like you don't like we say this a lot to other individuals who are coming up, like inches turn into miles or ounces turn into pounds, some variation of the sort, right? Like it doesn't seem like a lot now, but as the things progress, as the day tracks on, as you absorb more and more knowledge, you don't realize just how much you actually have in your load or in your toolbox until like some years or some time that has passed, and then you look back like, oh, okay, I really have gone pretty far with this. And um, from a brand new student, I'm gonna use the reference of student. When you're new to the game and you're new to the field, it just seems like a long road. Like I'm never gonna get through this. I'm not gonna see the end of this and whatnot. But you just take one step at a time, and before you know it, you're so many miles away from where you started, or kilometers for the metric people. So.
No, yeah, no, and that's where like I tell because I get students like and just you know going back to the whole like the military thing. My contract was like roughly around 5 years, right?
Hmm.
Um, just our tech school alone, like just here, like traditional Part 147 aircraft maintenance school is like 2 years, 2 years and a half, right? That's like
Hmm.
your average. We have some people that finish faster, but because they double up classes. But so to tell like someone brand new, hey, it's gonna take you 2 years for this trade. Someone might be like, man, that's a long time, and I'm like, yeah, it's a long time because this is what the career like entails. you can't just chat GPT this, right? You can't just
Mhm.
AI your way around this, right? And
Mhm.
if you do, like there's gonna come a point where the rubber like meets the road. Like you're gonna be able to, like, once you use your hands, you're like, hey, can you chat GPT how to turn this wrench? No, you can't.
Yeah.
Like, like but it's just one of those things that it's like it like takes time, trust the process, hang in there.
Right. And I love the fact that you mentioned that too. Like you give them like the long
Hmm.
duration, because you have some individuals. I was one of them. Like, how long is this going to take me? Or I'm going to do it faster. Or
Hmm.
um, what's the typical timeline for someone to reach this? Well, I'm going to do it faster. And
Hmm.
yeah, I progress to that point faster, but in the speed of doing that, how much are you actually absorbing? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that was my problem. Like I'll get somewhere so fast that I'm only processing what's ahead of me and just enough of what I left behind, that when the rubber meets the road and I have to reach back to something that I was supposed to have known like 2+ years ago, it's all cloudy because I was too focused on just getting somewhere quick and fast, and
Hmm.
and that was on top of me like just doubling up, spending sleepless nights trying to absorb stuff, and yeah, you'll get there quick, but it doesn't. But it's all on the individual themselves. Like, how much are you actually able to sponge along the process? So,
Yes.
for everyone out
Yes.
there, like, don't try to be the superhero and just try to smash your way through it. Like, we learn at the pace that we as individuals learn. So, however long that takes is however long you should process this. Like, don't let someone else's timeline dictate yours. Is what I'm trying to say.
Pretty much, yeah.
Let's switch a little gears to more than just wrenches. So one of the biggest themes that I have been seeing from your biography and stuff is that throughout your career, that you didn't stay in one specific lane, and this is something that I feel like a lot of us are guilty of. Like if we started with helicopters, we stick with it, or if we started with like cargo airplanes, for example, or general aviation stuff, we stick with it, and that's all we want to do, right? Um, but you're obviously not one of them because you jumped around from one section of aviation to the next.
Hmm.
So, what message do you hope to give young mechanics, or what do you hope young mechanics hear when you tell them your story?
Well, yes. Well, okay. It's very like you said, it's very easy to be like, tunnel vision, aircraft mechanic. I want to stay this forever, right?
Hmm.
But how do I answer? Like you had a thing in like your last question where you were talking about like, like, doing like the military aviation. Like there was a lot of point six, and I'm gonna be real with like you and your audience and whoever sees this. There was a me specifically, I did not grow up wanting to do aviation. Like I didn't first of all, I was never really exposed to it. So I didn't,
Hmm.
like, how some people are like they have aviation like in their blood. My dad flew an airplane, my dad, I don't know, my grandfather worked on McDonnell Douglas or whatever. Like
Hmm.
there's some people that have that, right? My dad was a truck driver. He don't know how to fly an airplane. He don't know the first thing about an airplane, right? My
Hmm.
dad well, he was from Mexico. I'm like first generation like Mexican American, so that was not something we talked about like at the household as like possibilities, right?
Right.
But and so going into that mindset, into the military, going to the Marine Corps, when I got not really okay, so I don't know about G6, but when I joined the military, I was very like gung ho Marine Corps, hoorah, USMC, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like ground and pound kind of guy, right?
Yep.
It just so happened that I scored decently enough on the ASVAB where they were like, hey, do you want to do aircraft mechanic? And then just to give you like an insight, at the time, right? Because remember I told you that music was my passion.
Hmm.
At the time, I was trying to join the Marine Corps or sign up for the Commandant's own Marine Corps Drum and Bugle Corps. Like
There you go.
that was like my thing. I was like, I'm gonna go for that, right? And if you know, like I don't know, like what they call it, spaces, boat spaces or whatever. My
Hmm.
recruiter was like, you could wait 8 months, or you could go right now and be open aviation contract. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go right now.
Yep.
you know, because I was at a point in my life where I was like rock bottom. Like I wasn't going to school. I was in and out of like different community colleges. I was just like down a bad path. I needed to get in line quick, and I
Hmm.
knew that about myself. And so I was like, I'm gonna sign the dotted line and then see what happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without even putting much thought into it. I was like, aviation, whatever, sign me up, right? But when I get to my first, when I pass, boot camp, MCT, go to my A school to get my training on the platform and get to my actual like fleet squadron. Being a mechanic was not my first choice, and so there was people in my shop who that was like their main jam. Like there's people that we joke about. One of our inspectors like, oh, he must go home at night and read the manuals with a fine glass of wine next to their fireplace. Right. Right, because he knew the book
Yep.
like the back of his hand, and you know those guys that are just like super locked in, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was more like I want to be a Marine first. I'm gonna do push-ups, pull-ups. Yeah, I'll like get my inspector, CDI, but that wasn't my first like thought, right?
Right.
And so, long story short, when I was in the flight line shop, I got fapped out. And for those of you guys that don't know what fapped out is, it was essentially like you're put like in a sub shop, like as a sub billet, right?
Yep.
I got moved to the
Mm-hmm.
corrosion control like section. For those of you guys that know like corrosion control, like 12 Charlie, yes, that is me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So besides doing corrosion inspections, we did like aircraft washes, but there was a lot of downtime. There was like downtime where I was like, you know what, like I want to go, I like want to go to school. I want to use my tuition assistance, right? And so I say that because even back then I was already kind of going in between lanes. I was like, hey, I want to finish school, but I want to be a mechanic, right? Even so much so that when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was burnt out of aircraft maintenance. I was burnt out. I was like, hey, I never want to see an airplane again. I want to be done with this like stage of my life, right?
Right.
And and it's sad to it's sad to say, but that was just where I was at that point in my life, right? And I don't want your viewers to get like a like negative, oh, this guy doesn't like aircraft. No, I do like aircraft because I came back to it and I ended up loving it even more. But
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I was just burnt out, right?
Yep.
You know, for those of you guys that never done military aviation, you work your regular like 9 to 5, quote unquote, more like 5, 6 in the morning to like 8 at night, and then you have your what is it, barrack inspections,
Yep.
right? Right. And then you have PT at 3 in the morning, right? So, but anyways, coming out of that, I was already trying to go to school, and I was like, what's the quickest way to go to school? Well, I already have aviation training, so I'm going to go to Embry-Riddle. I'm going to have somewhere that gives me credits for my MOS, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get done with school quicker, right? So when I got out of the military, I ended up finding a program. Shout out to my alma mater, California Baptist University. They have an aviation management, and I was like, you know what? I'll be done soon enough. I'm going to go to aviation management. Long story short, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked at SkyWest, worked at Executive Jet, worked at SpaceX. Even then, like you would think, oh, you would think you would stay at Spaces, but each point in my life, that's what I needed at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm burnt out doing maintenance. My wife, she's a public school K-12 special ed teacher, and she was like, maybe you should teach, right? Maybe you should teach. And so I was like, you know what? Let's go to school, back to school. I don't think I'm smart enough, okay? And I don't know if this resonates with you, but I was, being in the Marine Corps, you're like, everyone has the running joke, oh, they're a bunch of crown eaters, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've never heard that term while I was in, but I heard it when I got out. They were like, oh,
Right.
you're a crown. I'm like, what's a crown eater, right? And I don't want to give off like the negative, like, like I don't want to go down that road because at the time I was like thinking, oh, I'm not smart enough to go to school, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
just a mechanic, right?
Yep.
Aircraft mechanic. And I don't want to be negative with that, but it's like my wife was like pushing me like, you should go back to school, use your GI Bill, right? So I went for my master's, and I actually did a whole career. I quit my position at, was it SpaceX? I think it was SpaceX. And at the time, I want you to understand what I was going through, okay? At the time, I was working in the R&D of the Dragon 2 in the actual clean room. Like I was on the trunk team mostly, but it was like the type of scene that you see in like the movie like Independence Day. Have you ever seen like Independence Day? I don't
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
Smith back in the day, where they go to like the underground bunker and it's like all white. Everyone's wearing like their bunny suit with the little headdress, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they all look like they're doing like important things. Well, imagine that kind of scene when I was at SpaceX. Everyone looked like they were doing like important types of things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we were like, um, at the time I was on the trunk team, and we were stress fitting the solar arrays on the trunk barrel. If you ever seen the Dragon 2, on the bottom of the barrel of the or top end of the rocket, bottom end of the trunk with the capsule sitting on, it has like the solar arrays with the fins on the side, right?
Yep.
And so we were pressure fitting that onto the actual composite. And so um, I wasn't there for the actual launch of when I was working on it. It was called DM2, but the DM2 one was the one with the floaty, like they launched it before the astronauts. That was the mission prior to the astronauts,
Yep.
and it was the one with the little floating globe, like that was like floating in space. So it was like an unmanned mission, but I had quit there to do a career change, and I did the career change while I was in the middle of my master's at California Baptist for Education, and I did a career change to become a substitute teacher, a substitute teacher, which is like way less money than what I was making at the time. Um, but I did that because my wife was like, you should try subbing first to see what grade level you like, right?
Right.
And and the grade level that I fit most, that I think that I thought that I could give more to, was through the special education like kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these are kids. When I say special education, there's like varying degrees of special education. There's like mild to moderate learning disabilities. There's physical disabilities. There's moderate to severe. I worked with the kids that had like mild to moderate learning disabilities. So it could be like they might not read words right. They might not have the right like tracking to do math problems. So you got to teach them like these different like um, ways of like learning, right?
Right.
Kind of how like, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but like how you learn how to read. Like when people go back, it's like, oh, reading just happened. I just got good at it, right? Some kids
Right.
get good. Some kids need like extra techniques to actually like learn the steps of how to read, right?
Right.
Um, so anyways, at the time I was like questioning, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? All this to say is that like now it's like I teach aircraft maintenance, right?
Mm.
And besides teaching aircraft maintenance, I want everyone to wrap their heads around this. We have instructors here, like they're amazing instructors, amazing mechanics. They have like their careers. They're like way better than I am. They're like they have their careers degrees in like propulsion and like power plants, airframes. They're like amazing mechanics. But and I'm sure you can attest to this. Just because you're a good mechanic does not mean that you're a good educator, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so it's a whole different skill being good at something, but being able to teach that person how to be good at something. It's a whole different
Yes.
mindset. Um, I don't want to get too deep into. Did you have something to say, or six
No,
or?
no, 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 no. I'm like, I'm loving the fact that you're saying this, especially because you mentioned having the special education background, and
Mhm.
this kind of breaks us out of the bubble of what we know and understand of how things should work, right? And and then when you see something like special education, or you step out of a field that you're knowingly used to,
Yes.
it become you realize that you're speaking a language that not everyone understands. Right? And especially for something like aviation, for example, like there's a whole different language, there's a whole different culture, there's a whole different way of life in there, but when you're in it so deep you don't realize it. So when you speak to other people, it comes off as foreign, like what the hell are they saying?
Yes.
And
It's yeah. But without and I want to add on to that. I tell this to everybody. I've been in different situation rooms, right? I've been in situation rooms where it's like maintenance controls, like we have to get 30 birds off the air. We have to get 30 birds out in the air for our operations for the day. Maintenance better be lined up. I've been in situation rooms where like Elon Musk is on the floor and he's like, "Hey, we have to push Dragon 2 to meet the mission deadline." I've been in situation rooms where it's like the principal's like, "Hey, we got to get this kid to learn their ABCs before like July,"
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And just so you know, all of them are equally as important, like in that field, right?
yeah.
The stakes are high.
Yeah, and so like what I'm getting from a lot of this, and I think we kind of you hit the nail on the head earlier, is uh, when when you come into any field really,
Mhm.
you're gonna understand that there's always gonna be some kind of challenge. There's gonna be some kind of deadline,
Mhm.
and you're not gonna realize just how much you're doing by just staying in one particular lane, right? You're only gonna understand your problems. You're only gonna understand your stress, so to say. But you don't realize just how each one feeds to the next, right? Like, for example, with the flight line mechanics or the guys who work on the ramp, you only know that you need to tow this plane, you need to do this,
Yes.
you need to
Yes.
do this fuel sample, you need to you need to do this and this and this, and that's all the stress you know, and you just think that everyone's just piling their troubles onto you,
Mhm.
but you don't see how it all feeds the conveyor belt of the ultimate end goal, which is getting this plane out on time or getting these students um, fully educated in a certain goal or a certain skill set and whatnot. You only see your piece of the pie, and so like being able to branch out and step into a different role, so to speak. You understand how all of this feeds to each other, um, and once you see the whole wheel, so to speak, of how this whole plays into effect, you can start appreciating each field more, and then more than that, how to actually communicate this better to other individuals, or you're able to help. How can I make this system work better, so to speak? um,
Well, and that's what like that's why that question is good. Is like, hey, you know, should you stay in your lane? And I would argue, it's stay in your lane can have different meanings, but in career progression, I would argue that you probably shouldn't stay in your lane. That way you get the big picture of like everything else, right? So,
yes.
um, I'll give you a perfect example, okay? And SpaceX was a good and just so everyone knows, okay, just so your audience knows, these are just my personal views. I know I work at the college, but I'm speaking on my this podcast on my own behalf, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like at SpaceX, they had like top level engineers there, right? Top level technicians, mechanics, people that make spacecraft, top level like astronauts. Um, I could have chose to stay in that lane to progress within that field, but I chose to like leave,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some people stay, some people don't stay, and they do bigger and better things, or some people, do like different things. But had I chose that route, which is still a great route, I wouldn't have the impact on education that I have now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so had I stayed in that lane, it wouldn't have opened up different opportunities, right? And so
Yes.
to come back to the question about as a mechanic, you're going to be a mechanic for the rest of your life, which is fine because the world needs mechanics and technicians, and believe me, they make good money. Like, but I told the students that aviation is a big field. Okay, aviation is not only pilots, it's not only mechanics, it's not only air traffic controllers, right? There's like drone pilots now, there's technicians that work on drones, there's aircraft sales, right? Both
Mm-hmm.
small and big. There's HR, there's training, education, there's what else? There's like insurance, um, which is why like whenever you mentioned that I take students to these conferences, these trade shows, these competitions.
Yep.
Whenever I take students there, it like opens like their world, because in their head they were coming to our school just to be technicians, to be mechanics. But when I tell them, hey, there's a whole ecosystem of like aviation, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I and then they're like, you mean that I could become this HR rep for like Boeing? And I'm like, yes. Well, how? And I'm like, just think about the field of aviation. Not everybody here got aviation degrees or aviation certificates, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people that are like scientists, HR, and I'm like, there's people here that do business, but whatever their degree is, you out of all people are the subject matter expert within aviation. Sure, you might not be that HR rep, but you have that system knowledge, that aviation savvy, that aviation know-how, like the language that we speak, that translates into other like adjacent roles, right? Like
Yes.
if you're doing aircraft sales, yeah, you can be the best salesman, but do you know your systems? What if the customer wants to know how much runtime is on that engine, right, on that specific model? Are they going to ask the sales guy, or are they going to ask the actual subject matter expert? Oh, they're going
Right.
to ask the subject matter expert. Well, who is that? That is you. That is what we're training you to be, right? So
Yes.
that's where I tell people and students, like, You don't have to stay in your lane. In fact, you shouldn't, because that could open up a whole world of opportunities to you.
Yes, I love I especially love this that you say this because I mean, case in point is the two of us, right?
Mhm.
MVP is another case, and so many others out there. Like, just because your entry point was humble, it doesn't mean
Mhm.
it has to stay there, right?
Mhm.
Uh, a good example is I'm gonna pick on MVP for a second because he started out similar to us, where he didn't aviation was not his first choice. It was some random commercial at 3 o'clock in the morning that say, "Hey, you should be an aircraft mechanic," and he kind of just ran from there. Nowadays, he runs on the executive suite side of things.
Mhm.
Maybe not with the C-suite guys who make like 18 figures an hour or something like that, but
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
but
yeah,
like going
yeah.
from being a mechanic who understands the system to being someone who's on the level where policies are set
Mhm.
for a particular company because of this expert knowledge. That's something that you as an individual, you're not going to see coming in from the start. Like, you're
Mhm.
just going to see, I'm going to get my hands dirty, I'm going to be grungy, I'm going to be sweaty. But the understanding that ground level knowledge, that hand to aircraft knowledge, when it comes time for people to make policies happen, like, we want to change the shift schedule, we want to implement this policy, etc., 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 stuff that directly affects you. If these individuals making these decisions don't understand how that trickles down to the people that it affects, they're gonna make all these different choices and not realize how fundamental of a shift this would be. But if someone like you, the student, comes in who trickles their way up into that executive space, and you say, no, this is a bad idea, pump the brakes, let's discuss it, let's factor these extra things in. Now we're making decisions that benefit everybody, because now it's more than just a cost and schedule thing. Now it's a cost, schedule, plus these extra factors. And for people out there who don't know, who are just like, I'm just a wrench, I'm just going to do this, when you're at this executive level, policy making level, the only thing that these individuals see from that high up is cost and scheduling. How much is this going to cost me? How long is this going to take? That's it. I mean, there's maybe some individuals who have a little bit more say than this, but that's really it. So if they did not have this experience coming up, or know somebody they can rely on to have this kind of experience, they're going to make cost and scheduling decisions and not know the consequences of how that affects people on the ground. And I say people on the ground, like, just like, say, going all the way down to like the step one of the 100 step process. Um, so
Yeah, and then to add to your point, six is like when you have people like that, and I think we're on the same vibe, same page, that
mhm.
you would much rather have you would much rather have a person that comes from within, that knows the way the operations work, that is that subject matter expert,
Yes,
calling the shots because they see the bigger picture of it, than a C-suite executive that just got tossed in there, right?
yes,
I'm sure from what it sounds like, I'm sure that we have both seen similar instances where we have different leaders, ones that know what they're doing and ones that just kind of manage to have that position for whatever reason, and
yep,
both have severely different outcomes. What might look good on black and white might not look good in actual application, is what I'm hearing
yes,
from you.
yes, perfect. You captured it perfectly, and that's something that we, both from your end, with teaching the students, on our end, as far as communicating on the podcast
Mhm.
is concerned, is you you don't realize the impact you have until you start applying it to stuff.
Yeah.
And from your
And that,
your point of entry into this space, it all depends on you, the individual. But what you've gained and what you're able to apply to this is all up to you. If you want to just be the grungy wrench turner, by all means, because, like, as
yeah.
Francisco said, like, we need you. And
Yep.
more and more as the data trickles in and the reports trickle in. If you've seen any reports, or if you've seen anything on social media, we need you.
Yeah.
There's no roundabout about. There's no going around this. We need you. But if your end goal is to do more than just this, it's totally within your power and within your capability. It's all dependent on how much you want to affect the overall process or the system.
Yeah.
Going on.
But that is where like it's very important that I note this, Six, because um one of the leadership principles that I kind of stand on is you have to like enable, like I don't even want to say your subordinates, but the people that you're leading, you want
Yes.
them to be leaders as well. And so a big thing, and I don't want to sound like I'm this like old jarhead or whatever, but a big thing that was instilled for me from the Marine Corps is that you have to inspire others, right, to like
Yes.
believe in themselves. In the Marine Corps, I know you know this, even though like I would like to say we're the best organization in the world, fighting organization. Um, they had to build us up. They had to tell us. They had to drill us into our head, like, "Hey, you are the best of the best." Well, why? Because we say so. You are the best. We're the
Mm-hmm.
Marines. We're gonna be the best. And that was their whole mindset. Is like it's kind of like what there's a term for it. Like I forgot when you like positively think about things that they end up like coming true or they end up happening.
Yep.
Um, but like you said, how we need those leaders to come from within to make those shots. Same thing with the students from day one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I know some of the people that have years of experience are like, you shouldn't be telling this on day one. I'm like, no, I tell them this because I want them to start thinking it. I tell my students like, hey, from here on out, you're the subject matter expert, but we don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything yet. I'm like, it doesn't matter because nothing drives me crazier, okay, as a
Mm-hmm.
professor, when I go on social media, and that's how we get our news nowadays, right? I'm a millennial, right? I still get it from trusted public media, all that stuff, but social media like YouTube, what have you, and I see this like pundit, this like personality, this influencer give their 2 cents about aviation, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you think that person knows more than you? And they're like, well, they have a platform. Like, it doesn't matter. They're not
Yep.
aviation experts. They're not the ones registering, registering for school, coming to a vocational program. You are that subject matter expert within aviation. That
Yep.
person, just because they throw up those like the memes, the images, the videos of jets flying around, and all of a sudden they're professional. They know everything there is to know about Boeing, right? And they have like a reasonable opinion. I'm like, no, you're the ones that are actually doing the work and that are actually studying. So from day one, I need you to start believing that you are the subject matter expert. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get your A&P certificate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether we have good attitude or not, like I'm going to train you. That is my goal, to give you the A&P certificate. So you're going to be calling those shots. Okay. Um, I if you're making that decision of like, hey, I certify this aircraft that it's safe for flight with all 200 300 plus souls on boards, with mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, wives, nephews, whoever. If you're making that call, this airplane's good to go, you have to have that mindset that you're that subject matter expert,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, sorry to get all passionate about it, but that's where I'm like, man, like since day one, when you step foot on these premises, like, and you're under my instruction, you have to have that mindset, because moving forward, I'm going to trust you, right?
Yep. Now that's actually perfect. I love the fact that you gave that kind of passion, because that's
Mhm.
what we try to imbue on you, because that's what people are going to expect of you, right?
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
not going to know you're a first time or a first year mechanic. They're not going to know that you're the subject matter, you're the seasoned
Yeah,
subject matter expert. They're just going to see aircraft mechanic, wherever it says
yeah.
on your uniform or your badge or
Mhm.
whatnot, and just gonna say this person knows what they're doing, and they're gonna lean heavy on this, right? The pilots are gonna lean on you, the air crew's gonna lean on you, your executive office is gonna lean on you, and the only excuse, so to speak, that you have is nothing really. It's
Yeah,
like,
but that's what I'm saying, is that like I want them to have that confidence from day one, because I see all my students, and I know this kind of sounds like, I see all my students as future aviation leaders, right? The way that
yes,
I came through, the way you came through, I'm like, I see you as that. But why am I? Because when you get to your job, you're going to be thrust into that role that you might not know that you're ready for. Heck, when I came on this role, I didn't know I was ready for it. But if I have that mindset, it'll make you to be that much better. And there's a counter argument like, oh, they should be ready and they should learn their stuff. Yes, it's gonna happen. But I don't know about you, Six, but throughout my career, I have learned not so much on the job. Yeah, I had the background, but to be proficient at my job, like you have
mm,
to go through it as your nothing prepares you for your job. Like it's nothing prepares you for like your career except for doing it, except for doing the work,
yes,
right?
yep,
So, but if I was scared, like, oh, you know what, I'm scared, I'm not ready for that, or I'm not ready for A&P school, then you're never gonna do it, right?
yep,
So you have to just instill that mindset.
yes. I actually I love that, and that's a great way to really paint the picture, so to say, and that's really what makes the difference is how you approach things. And you have individuals that say, "Oh, I want to be a leader. I want to do this. I want to do that." I'm like, okay, cool. So what are you going to do about it? Right? It doesn't. There's no magic threshold that once you cross this, you're going to be, you know, the leader or the expert or the whatever. It's got to start from the beginning. Like, you got to see yourself as this. You got to imagine yourself or manifest. I guess that's the word. You got to manifest yourself as this.
Yes, you have to manifest. And I don't want to get too into the manifest because some people are like, you can't just manifest. I'm like, you can and you can. You could have that mindset, but you still have to do the work.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly that. Now, shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about this in the wide scope of things, so to say. Outside of the classroom, you serve as ATEC's Mechanic Airman Certification Standards in the working group. From the national perspective, what changes are coming to maintenance education? And then how do those conversations influence the way you prepare people today?
Okay, well, I kind of just, so to piggyback on the last discussion point is that I'm a very big proponent in like higher education, right? I made the conscious decision to keep pursuing higher education. I could have just stopped at my A&P. Not saying that A&P is good or bad. Having your A&P is good, okay? Having your A&P is amazing, okay? At the time, I was like, you know what? And remember how the time I was telling you, I'm just going to try and get done with school faster. I'm going to go through a program that I already have credits in because of my military experience. My wife was like, you should go, continue, do education, like get your master's or whatever. I had gotten that, right? But that doesn't, having your education helps you broadly see like the bigger picture of things, right? Besides that, that doesn't guarantee you job placement, okay? And I want to make note that just because you have an education, you shouldn't expect a certain position.
Yes.
Okay. At the same time, if you're confident with your own skills, once a position opens up and you already have that in your back pocket, you meet the basic qualifications, okay? Every position, every executive C-suite, they're going to have like basic qualifications. Hey, do you meet the criteria? Do you have your A&P? Right? Do you have your bachelor's? Do you have your master's or whatever? Okay. Do you have these basic qualifications? Assuming you meet the standard, at that point, you meet the basic qualifications. And then you could say, hey, I have X, Y, and Z years in aircraft maintenance. Okay, cool. You have that experience. Here's a position. Right. So my work in ATEC, Aviation Technical Education Council, right? I throughout teaching, I teach the general sections of the A&P program, right?
Yep.
Throughout teaching it, I'm teaching through like FAA handbooks, okay? And so we teach, for those of you guys that don't know, ATEC is a nonprofit organization that promotes the field of aviation technical education, okay? But through that, they make recommendations. They have like a ongoing work group that essentially modifies the ACS. Okay, ACS stands for Airman Certification Standards, and they're under the purview of the FAA. Like right here at my part at our Part 147 school, I can't just teach whatever I want. Okay,
right.
As much as I have influence, I have to adhere to a strict set of standards that are given to us by the FAA, and that's how we are approved. Okay.
Right.
Once you deviate from that, then you're not following the standards. Okay. But in any case, sometimes those standards need to be revisited because they might not be. They might what's the word? They might not apply to all areas of aviation technical education. Okay.
Right.
I'll give you so anyways, so that work group meets to revise the ACS standards to more meet industry needs, and through that they make those recommendations to the FAA, right? Well, I can clearly remember a point when I was teaching. This is one of my first semesters of like teaching, and keep in mind that I had just gotten off of like teaching special education, and they taught me more or less how to teach. I don't want to say more or less because they taught me how to teach. Okay. And in the Marine Corps, they kind of show you how to be like a leader. They kind of show you how to like guide your troops, right? Like into battle, or in my case, into like aircraft maintenance, right?
Yep.
But they don't really teach you like the like pedagogy. When I say pedagogy, is like the like the theories of teaching. Okay.
Right.
I remember going to my teacher credentialing program, and they were like, oh yeah, we do this thing called scaffolding, right? And if you
Yep.
know, like a scaffold, you stand on it, there's a next step, so on and so forth, right? Well, in teaching, that's a term that they use to like, hey, you have to scaffold like broad knowledge, and then once the student understands that broad term, then you scaffold onto that the next term, then the next term, then the next term, to where it's a specialized term that they know. Okay.
Yep.
So anyways, coming from the teaching field, then teaching the general parts of the AMP, I was seeing that there's like a disconnect between their way they flow the textbook, and they have the actual framework for the ACS standards, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
teacher, I'm like, hey, maybe maybe the part on basic electrical should be at the end of our teaching. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe because if you've gone through your AMP program, did you go through your AMP program 6, or did you go through
Actually, I
military
did. Actually, I
certification?
did mine through apprenticeships, through the apprenticeship program in the Marine Corps. So a lot
Okay.
of it was very hands on. Yes, there was air quotes
Yeah.
classroom teaching, but yeah,
Yeah.
most of it was just like hands on, and I had
Okay.
to
So
demonstrate.
which is fine, because I did the same thing. I told my students I never went through like a 2-year trade school. I should have gone though, because once I got
Right.
to the floor, I was like kind of like lost. My boss was like, "You don't know how to do this?" I'm like, "No, I never learned this." Like, I'll give you a good example. They were like, "You don't know what a landing gear is?" I'm like, "Dude, I worked on skids."
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
Right. But once I taught it, and once I went through like teaching my brief career through like teaching special education, I was like, hey, you know what, there's a better way that we could structure this, right? Who's the organization that does this? Oh, well. And again, you're always going to get pushback. You can't change the FAA, you can't do this, it's always been this way, right? That's what the people that have been in the industry like long enough say, right?
Right.
When you're like me, I always question things. I'm like, but why? Who says that? Who says you can't do this? Well, anyways, come to find out, there's this organization called ATEC, right? And they do this ongoing. And shout out to the people out of ATEC, Rhonda Cooper, who leads this, and then Crystal McGuire, who are part of ATEC, right? But they go to Washington every year, and they essentially vouch for our schools, and they push legislation through, or not, or like through them, push ideas through legislation to essentially promote the field of aviation. Another thing they do is like, I don't know if you're familiar with like FAA grant funding.
Yep.
Okay, but it's
I know of it, but I don't know the process of how that works. If that makes sense.
okay. Well, I don't want to get too political with it, because that's like not my spirit. But this past year, I think it was JD Vance or Trump said, "Hey, we're pushing out money
Mm-hmm.
to support workforce development." Okay, so this also happened prior to his administration too. Like there was already things being done behind the scenes to essentially divvy out grant funding by the government to push the field of aviation. And when I say push, I mean have a bigger workforce fed through the pipeline, right? And so they
Mm-hmm.
give schools like my college, San Bernardino Valley College, other schools funding to have certain projects, to have more training, to have more this, to have more that, to pump out more mechanics. Well, in any case, this organization, ATEC, not only modify standards when needed, when is needed, also pushes for funding in Washington, D.C. So here I am, a professor at the school, and I'm like, man, can I do this? Is this like my sphere? Can I hop onto this? And sure enough, I just go for it and sign up, which is like the story of my life. Just sign up without knowing what's going to happen, right? So
Right.
now I have direct influence, and not and I don't want to say direct, but like group influence to essentially modify these standards for what the field needs right now. Give you an example, okay? Um, which state, and I don't want to say which state, but a common state that's known for wildfires is what? California.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we live, right? SoCal. Well, at the time, um, right now, as it is, the standards for helicopter maintenance is very niche for the Part 147 schools. Like, it's very minimal,
Right.
and it's very broad. Okay, so knowing that, like, hey, we have a lot of fires in California. We have a lot of helicopter operations. We have San Bernardino County Fire. We have what is it, Cal Fire, right? That essentially uses helicopters to like dump water as like spotters to essentially fight fires, right? What do
Yep.
we need more in the area? We need more helicopter mechanics, right? Well, where do they come from? Where they come from prior military, or they come from out of state? Long story short, Um, for our specific school, I'm like, hey, I need them to come from internally, right? So how do I do that? I push this organization to change the standards to support more helicopter operations, right? So it's little ways like that that I help out, right? That I see the push like, hey, we should probably steer this direction, right? Which I don't know, like years prior, I would have never have imagined to have that kind of like influence, right? And
Yep.
I don't want to throw the term influence, influencer out there because it's one thing to be an influencer, to be like a pundit, like on like a YouTube show or like a YouTube channel. It's a
Right.
whole other thing to have like regulatory influence,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And I think that's a facet that a lot of people are starting to become too numb to, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
you got the influencer who you see all the time on some type of media outlet, right? Like, okay,
Hmm.
they said this, so it must be true and stuff like that. But the actual influence that affects policy, that affects programs, that affects people's lives, that takes time, and
Yes.
a lot. A lot of it is like it's like micro steps. It's
Yes.
so small that you almost miss it and you kind of take it for granted. But as it adds up, as it moves along, it's like trying to steer a yacht. You know what I mean? It doesn't. When it moves, it makes a significant shift, but it takes forever for it to turn. Um, so like the influences where you and I are talking about, it's fundamental. It happens. It's just it comes in places that feel so infinitesimal in the grand scheme of things, but as it turns and you feel its direct effect. So for mechanics today, students coming into the aviation space, like you very well could have this influence, like what Francisco was talking about, but you're not going to realize it until the boat starts making that fundamental shift, you know.
Yeah.
So given that, right, as someone who has this kind of I'm gonna keep saying influence now because it's stuck in my head, but for someone who has this kind of sway on things, what skills do you think that students will need in the next 5 to 10 years from now that they perhaps didn't know about or didn't think was important when they first started their A&P?
Um, in terms of starting their A&P, you could go off like those, like I don't want to say like, I don't want to call them hard skills because there's a hard and a soft skill, but like hard skills, like, hey, you could just, as an AP mechanic, you could rely just solely on your knowledge and solely on your tangible hands-on skill,
Right.
which is fine. Okay. I know people that have been doing maintenance for like 40 years and they make amazing money, right? Right.
Right.
But you know, you said it best in the last point, how there's I think I'm gonna try and sum up what you said, but there's like a disconnect between having regulatory influence versus social media influence,
Right.
right? And there's generation, like, I want to say, like myself, as millennials, who see like there's good in both, right?
Mm.
One, you could actually sway like Congress on that level, like not Congress, but like legislative action to essentially support your field. Two, you could gather like grassroots support to support your effort, right? Right now, that is like my sole mission, is to kind of like have both ends meet, because awareness needs to be brought to aircraft maintenance and like what we do. Not necessarily like, oh, please thank me, I'm your mechanic. No, no, no. Like,
Mhm.
I'm the reason for your safe flight. No, not that kind of awareness. I mean, awareness to the job field, that we need new applicants to enter the job field, right? That's where, um, and this is, I know this is going to get me in trouble, but hopefully it doesn't, right? You have to understand that, and this is speaking to your broad audience, being an AP mechanic, and you know the six, requires a lot of education. Okay.
Mhm.
Whether you want to admit it or not, you have to know a lot of things, not just like, like install, remove, and replace. You have to know theory, you have to know like systems, you have to know a lot, right?
Mhm.
In other countries, we are thought of like as engineers, right? And even though we don't use that term here, we don't use like aircraft engineer here, we use like AP mechanic.
Yep.
I always tell my students, you're like on the cusp of being like an aircraft aerospace engineer. Well, why? I'm like, because I've worked with engineers at like high-end companies, right? And
Yep.
so they make their designs, and they're like, hey, this is gonna work. I went to the best schools. I went to MIT. I went to like whatever name schools. Um, Put this on the spacecraft. And I'm like, hey, engineer, your design does not work. What do you mean it doesn't work? I'm like, your design does not work. It does not physically fit into that space. Right?
Oh man, you're
Well, how
you're
do you,
speaking my language right now. I think
yeah,
you're
right?
stalking me right now.
No, I know, but it's like, well, what do you mean my design say this? And I'm like, I'm going to let you know right now that my 15, 20 years, whatever plus of being a
Hmm.
mechanic, of being a tradesperson, my knowledge says that this is the wrong washer stack up. This is the wrong procedure for this. Well, how do you know that? Because I've been doing this for who knows how long.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is where there's a disconnect between engineering principles and hands-on application. I tell all my students, six, I tell them, hey, being an A&P mechanic is great, but don't just stop there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I could go back, I would get that aerospace engineering degree to be like a, I don't know, like what do you call someone that's good at like both worlds? Like, but to be that guy, because that is the kind of person that the industry needs right now. Not just hands-on, but the actual conceptual knowledge, right,
Yes.
of how like everything works. Um, so so going back, like that is some of the skills that I want to say, that I want to emphasize, is like not only have your hard skills, but like build up your soft skills, build up your people skills. I'll never forget this, man. And I hate going back to like my military examples. I met this old, and I don't want to say old, but the seasoned
Yep.
retired sergeant major. He was like a character. He was like one of those characters that you like you see on TV, just like
Mm-hmm.
very flamboyant, very like out there. And he told us when we were sitting down as brand new like junior Marines, he was like, you have to be outgoing. You have to be outgoing because your skills could speak for themselves, but if you talk and you're outgoing, people are going to remember you. So
Yes.
to move up in your career, you have to know how to talk to people, like those soft skills, but not only soft skills, but like interpersonal skills. And I don't want to get into like being a good person because it's or being a good or bad person, but it's just one of those things that you have to know how to treat people right, right?
Yes.
And people are not going to care what you know. People, like when I work with students, like the student is not like, let me hear your biography, your illustrious career. All the student cares about is how I treat them,
Yes.
right? And so by modeling the way that I treat them, by saying, hey, like I see myself in you when I teach you. Why? Because I was that like young lost guy, lost boy, whatever. So when I teach you from that mindset. Okay. Whether you take it or not, that's on you. But I'm gonna do my job and treat you with respect. Not only that, having those soft skills to know when to push a student to try their best or when to back off. Because you have to understand that, me working with people, you don't know what a person's going through. You don't know what life circumstances that they might be going through, uh, whether good or bad. So I would say those interpersonal soft skills also matter a lot too.
No, you're absolutely right on this, and I love the fact you mentioned the sergeant major bit because
Mhm,
uh let me backtrack a little bit. I see you or myself in you, the student, and
mhm,
that's something that we fundamentally need to do as a whole because that's exactly who they are. They're ourselves from way back in the day, or however how many years separate they are from us, and if we treat them that way, we have like an empathetic connection to them in the sense that I want to see that you're successful, right?
yes.
Not that I want to see you be dependent on me because yeah,
Mhm,
I like job security too, but
mhm,
eventually you're going to be the one that people are going to rely on, and if I didn't do my job in giving you the right tools of the trade to be proficient at not only your technical skills, but being able to communicate that to other people, then it's just going to be a detriment to everybody down the road later on. And then going to the sergeant major bit, uh, my first uh, my first real sergeant major, for those who weren't in the military, he's more or less like the senior advisor of the ground everyday troops to the decision makers.
mhm.
Mine looked 100% like Clint Eastwood. He looked like Clint Eastwood, had the Clint Eastwood resume, like what's that one movie, Heartbreak Ridge. He was a
Did he
he
talk
was,
like him too? Was he like was he all stoic? Like, yeah.
yeah, he was. He had the raspy voice and everything. He was stereotypical Clint Eastwood, and he had the resume too. He was a sniper. He was recon. He did scuba diving. He was a drill instructor. All that, right? Like stereotypical Marine right there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but when he talks, he doesn't talk like a stereotypical Marine. He talks like someone who like a father figure. You know what I mean? And that was what gave us the trust in this person. Like, he treated us like human beings. He didn't treat us like just tools for a goal, you know. And whenever someone had a problem, he was quick to listen to what they had to say, and that made people want to hear what he had to say. And so, taking that, when you apply this to something, be it teaching like your case, or helping people like improve a process, or making executive decisions, if you don't have that kind of approach that people want to talk to you, it's dead on arrival. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
When you come into the room and people just want to shut up, you've already lost. You've lost the audience already. You know what I mean? And even though you have something beneficial for the whole party or the whole group, if they've already have it in their head to clam up when you enter the room, that's already a loss. And I feel that's how it is currently with mechanics, especially because we're crass, we cuss a lot, we're seen as the kind who just like to be gritty and unrefined, so to speak. And some of us really embody that image. but if that's your approach in life, then by all means stick to your lane and just do the gritty stuff. But if you want to actually have a direct effect on what's gonna make the system, the process, your livelihood, whatever better, you got to be that approachable person to a certain degree. You know what I mean?
Sorry to interrupt, but make no mistake about that, Six. There's a big push to clean up. I don't even want to say like to clean up aircraft mechanics. Who was I talking to? I was talking to someone from the Aerospace Maintenance Council, and they're saying that just how the way that before, back in the day, pilots were known as like this like roughneck, rough and tough World War II pilot, and now they're like seen as like cleaner with the lapels, with a nice little cover, right, for the pilots. There's a big push to have mechanics operate that same way, and that's not to take anything out of the guys that are like gritty, like hardcore seasoned mechanics, but that's just to say that, hey, take pride in your profession, right? When I see students for the first time, and I like to think that I'm younger, but even then I'm like reminded of how old I am now, right? When students see me for the first time, they don't assume that I'm that like guy, right? Mm-hmm. And so they might like assume like someone with more gray hair or with more dirty hands. I'm like, don't, how do I say this politically correct? Don't get it twisted, okay? Yeah. I have done my time, okay? Right. Just because I dress this way in the classroom setting does not mean that I can't get my hands dirty or that I haven't gotten my hands dirty, right? So that's what they're like, oh, well, why? And, you know, like not even why, but what does that say? Like, should I dress that way? I'm like, no, you dress however you want to dress for that position. But the way that I was raised in my household was like, hey, you dress for the next position that you want to attain, right? In the faculty collegiate space, I have my colleagues that wear suits. I'm not a suit guy. I dress in polos. Okay. Right. But whenever I step foot on a hangar, it's expected, hey, a mechanic should have dirty hands. Well, should he have dirty hands or should he be wearing gloves? Right. So it's one of those like different mindsets. So so even though you have your seasoned mechanics that are like, we like curse a lot, we're supposed to look this way, it doesn't mean that it's right. Right. Okay.
And then I think that also goes into like mind the audience you're with, right? Like if you're amongst other fellow gritty mechanics, by all means, man, cuss up a storm. But like say like if you have more impressionable people, I would say, like or people who are not of the space that you're normally a part of, it might be of better reasoning to not be so gritty, right? Or like understand like they don't understand the life that you're living, right? So like if you got engineers who are used to being in clean rooms and whatnot, they won't understand what the gritty, dirty life is like, right? But that doesn't mean like just automatically assume that they are pretty and stuff.
but it's also I want to take it back to like a mindset shift, because you were talking about how like that that seasoned salty mechanic might not share knowledge that easily, right? We've all been under those leaders that are like, hey, you're brand new, there's a manual right there, go read it, go figure it out. Go look it up, right? I've actually had a couple of my instructors that I've been under. Hey, you don't know this? Go figure it out, right? I am not that kind of person. I'm like, hey, like, you don't know this. I will help you with it. I'll give you an excellent example. One time I had a mechanic that was like that we, we were just boys working. We were like, hey, big dog, can you show me how to like do this maintenance procedure? And he was a brand new mechanic, like roughly, right? And I'm like, man, why does he keep asking me to read to why does he keep asking me to read the manual for him, right? And
Yep.
come to find out that like, yeah, he had his A&P, but he could barely read.
Yep.
Right. And so it wasn't that he didn't want to. He was actually like a decent mechanic. He was a pretty good mechanic, but it's because he had like like that stigma where like, I don't want anyone to know like that I don't know how to read, right? Well, imagine him, a person like that, that's a decent mechanic, good mechanic, that could be a lifer, going to a seasoned salty mechanic that would be like, hey, go figure it out.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So that could instantly be like, shut off right there. I'm
Right.
done with aviation, So
yeah, that's a fantastic way to put it. And I think a lot of this stuff really highlights itself during the aircraft maintenance competition, because I think it started like 2 or 3 years ago, where they introduced a helicopter section in the in the competition, right? Because up until that point, everyone was kind of used to, it was more or less the same type of events, right? Like sealant, replace a window, do this virtual painting booth thing, which is pretty cool, by the way, or something with an avionics box. I can't remember all the stuff, right? But when I remember when they first introduced the helicopter stuff, all people panicked, right? Because it was so far out of their lane that they've gotten so used to how things were done. So when something brand new came about, their heads were spinning like, how do I do this? What do I do, right? And they really had to sit down and read through things. And even once read, it wasn't fully understood. And I think that,
you mean they couldn't do a track imbalance, or they couldn't remove and replace a pitch change link?
Yeah, or like even understand the concept of a track and balance, right? So like, well, this shows like the fundamental thing to what you were saying. Like, if I was that kind of person, where like, well, there's the instructions, figure it out, man. It shows like just how that approach can just drastically affect a team's performance outcome, right? Like, here's the instructions, here's what it goes. Come to me if there's anything that's unclear, right? And that performance fundamentally is fundamentally different from someone's like, well, here's the instructions, figure it the hell out. Like, okay, I don't know if this is right, but this is kind of how I interpreted it, right? And that can be the make or break point for some people. Like, well, I got shoved into this and I just had to figure this out. So what do I do, right?
But it also could go both ways, because the junior mechanic could ask the senior mechanic, and the senior mechanic, as I have happened to me before several times. The senior mechanic could be like, "Oh, go figure it out," and act like a tough guy, but in reality, they probably don't know what they're doing as well.
Right.
But rather than to admit that, they save face by saying, "Go figure it out."
Yes,
right?
yes. I'm glad you brought that up too.
Yes,
and that's a two-way street, and again, that shows during a competition, right? And I'm bringing this up because I want to touch base on your experience of this. When competition comes in and stress levels are high and people want to win and people want to do this, you see a lot of mindsets that really kind of show just how strong a team dynamic is and just how fundamentally important it also is, because you've seen it in that field where those who are just geared to win and those who are geared to actually like just work as a team. You know what I mean? So given that every year you mentor students for the aviation maintenance competition, beyond the competition itself, what does it mean to you specifically to watch students, especially from here in California or the end of the empire, to go as a team, to go shoulder to shoulder amongst some of the nation's best, I'm going to say the nation's best aircraft mechanics, because you have such a wide range of brand new to seasoned and all different fields, like to bring all them together and watch them like compete against these other professionals.
Yeah, I'm happy you touched on that. I would say it's an honor for me and for our students, right? I'm not speaking on their behalf, but for my past and future students, it is an honor to go toe to toe with some of these top like tier heavy hitter like organizations, right? The aerospace maintenance competition has been around for I don't know like more than 10 years. You know, Ken McTiernan, he's one of the organizers. He'll probably can like give you like the actual number, but it's an honor to compete against these like name brand schools, right?
Hmm.
In the aircraft maintenance field, we have these big companies, Boeing, we have United Airlines, American Airlines, right? We have in the school section, we have like the Embry-Riddles of the world, the Vaughn colleges, the Liberty universities. We have like a lot of amazing schools. And to be from not only the few schools from California, but also one of the, I don't even want to like shed like a bad light, but whenever you think of SoCal, you don't think of San Bernardino. You think of like Los Angeles, San Diego, right? But
Yes.
to be from the Inland Empire, representing your area in these like massive industry competitions with the best people in the world,
Hmm.
I I tell my students, six, I'm like, look at nothing separates you from the best. Well, why do you say that? They have all these facilities, they have all this. And like, because I've been in areas where I've seen the best.
Hmm.
Okay. I've been in those spaces. At the time, I was like, why am I even here? Right.
Right.
Right. And so I've been in the SpaceX situation rooms, the Marine Corps, you know, like in commercial airline spaces. And I'm like, I've seen the best. The only thing that separates you is that mindset of you thinking you are the best. Right. And so, and so you know, like there's a certain, I don't, when I did my associates, I think I did like I almost completed my associates at Embry-Riddle online when I was in the military using tuition assistance, like their online worldwide campus, right?
Yep.
But these are like those like heavy hitter like aviation schools that if you know aviation, everyone that's in aviation goes to these schools, right? And so what we are trying to create here at the college is that same atmosphere, that same level of dedication in the SoCal region, right? I'm not going to say we're the only school because there's other schools in the SoCal region that do aviation. Um, and although our school was mainly known for aircraft maintenance, I'm talking about San Bernardino Valley College, we have since then expanded into a professional pilot program, air traffic control program, and drones. So I am trying to build this place out to be like the mecca of aviation, not only in the inland, not only in SoCal, but in the nation. And so, what do
Yes.
we have to do? We have to compete, not even compete, we have to share in these spaces with the best, right?
Yes.
There's plenty of for-profit schools as well. There's like the AIM, AIM, the Spartans. There's a couple like other like big names, the UTIs, right? That
Yep.
also compete in these spaces as well. And while those are great schools and they all have multiple campuses, um, I feel like at the college we offer something that you can't replicate because um, it's not only is the cost substantially lower than like a for-profit school. Okay, I think last time I checked, I think it was like 2,800 for the whole program, like $2,800 for the whole program here, right? That comes out of pocket if you didn't get any financial aid or any like board of governors waiver or some kind of like financial aid, right?
Right.
Um, to get into aviation, it is the biggest bang for your buck, and it might not be like your like ending point, right? But I tell
Yes.
students because I have students that do our flight program that or have done other flight programs. Oh, it costs a lot to be a pilot. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the only field that you could do to get into aviation. There's other adjacent fields like aircraft maintenance or air traffic control that are like minimal, right? And then once
Right.
you make money, maybe you could pay for your flight hour costs, right? But in any case, to go toe to toe with these organizations as someone from San Bernardino, not me specifically. Okay, I go back to I grew up in the LA area, but someone that grew under these similar circumstances, um, man, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, I already told you about my upbringing. I would have not had that opportunity unless if I didn't join the Marine Corps, like
Yep.
the military. But you don't have to join the military to have those same opportunities. Do a school like you could do a school like ours or like a similar school, even a for-profit, like a vocational school, to be introduced to this amazing field of aviation. It's it's one of those things that like when you look back, six, aren't you like, man, how did I end up in this field? Like this is
Yes.
right.
Exactly. And because since the going on to this, when the students go there, is there a change in them specifically from the time they go there until the time from the time they go there to the time they get back?
Yes. And so while there are teams, because the goal is to win after all, it is a competition.
Yes.
While there are teams that is their sole focus, I tell students, man, just do your best. Just try your best. Oh, but that's the goal to win. I'm like, for you guys, it's the goal to win. For my goal is to expose you guys to the field of aviation. Whether or not you win or not, you're already winners in my book and in everyone else's book here. I'll give you an example. When the students go and they're like, when have you been to the competition or no?
I have not. We've been meaning to go. They've been inviting us to go, but yeah, like every single time we see it, we're like, oh, just let me go, man.
If you want, I could put you in contact with the organizers and see if you could like host your podcast from there. So
that'd be amazing. That would be amazing.
But I have students that are like, I think one year we were like side by side with like the Army guys, and the students see the uniforms, they get intimidated. They're like, we're as good as those guys. I'm like, don't let the uniforms confuse you. If you know, like we talked about how the military is, right?
Yep.
Right. I'm like, don't let the uniforms confuse you. You're just as good. Just focus on yourself, right? But when they go and they see that they're as good as these top level organizations, they come back even more pumped up, because you have to understand that when a student comes to our program, yeah, sure, I get people that are fresh from high school, but more so than not, I get people that are like mid-career, that are like leaving a previous career, whether they had their education or not from college or whatever they're doing. They come into aircraft maintenance because their buddy told them how good of income that it makes, or something along those lines. So it's like they want change, right? Yep. So I get all kinds of students as this option being their secondary career choice, but so they're kind of like, not timid, but I would say hesitant to go all into aviation. But man, when they go to these conferences, these trade shows, and they see the bigger ecosystem, they're like, I did not know that being an A&P opened up this many doors to like this field. And I'm like, yes, it totally does. Like, so when they come back from the competition, they're like even more pumped up to finish. We had a couple of gals, female students, when we not this past year, was it this past year? When they went, I think the year before last, they got offered conditional job offers with like Alaska Airlines. I think through like Horizon Air, through their like subsidiary. But they got conditional job offers. They're like, hey, we like your vibe, we like the way you guys are. As soon as you get your A&P, you have conditional job offers. And they made them, and they signed paperwork and everything. And that company flew students out free of charge. Okay, free of charge on you. They flew them out from the local airport here out to Seattle just for the interview.
Wow.
And like flew them back. And needless to say, those students both finished. They actually just finished their A&P program, and they just got certificated. So I think they're like within weeks of moving out to Seattle. But nice. I'm like, but that's where, oh man, it gives me goosebumps, because I'm like, it gives me goosebumps because here our organization is providing them this opportunity, and to see them like flourish in like the aviation field, it's like, man, like you literally change someone's life trajectory. Like, I know it sounds like cliche to be like, oh, well, they could have done a like different career, but who knows where they end up. If they're already starting off this strong, getting like flown out just for the interview with a reputable company, imagine like 10, 20 years down the line, they're going to be the next like future DOMs of who knows what organization.
Right. Yeah.
So it's quite, and just so I finish on this topic, it's one of those things that I tell my students, hey, when you make it big, don't forget where you came from. You came from here. Okay.
Yes.
so I'm like, buy me a dinner whenever you get, whenever you make it or whatever,
Right. Yeah.
But it's as a professor, teacher, or just like, like leader, influencer, nothing's more like empowering, touches the heart more than like things like that. And that I like gave you two examples, but this goes for all of our students here. When they finish here, I'm just like, man, like I'm proud of you because I see myself in you, and I wish you the best.
Yes. Yes. And I'm actually speechless right now, because I understand that feeling so well, right? And just to see them like be so green, going back to your previous word use, like being so green in things and being timid or hesitant, or just like, did I make the right choice? Or I'm not good enough to be in this space. right? And
Yes,
then
yes.
and then you go somewhere to like the competition or their first job or whatnot, and they see like just like, yes, they're seasoned, yes, they know more, yes, they've done it longer than you, but they're fundamentally the same as you, right? And especially something like the aircraft maintenance competition, where it's kind of, they try to humble it down enough to where even the more seasoned ones have trouble,
Mhm.
and you see them all like kind of working on the same playing field, so to speak,
Mhm.
and they're all struggling, they're all going through it, and it's like, okay, wow, like I'm doing it just as good as them, or maybe I'm doing this thing just slightly better, or they see the faults being
Mhm.
brand new, being green, and they can come up with different ways of how to approach it. That's the kind of stuff that makes me all amped up, is because you can see the wheels turning in their head of like how they can make this better. And sometimes it takes that fresh perspective to to see the fault in some, or see the flaw in something that
Yeah.
someone like you or me, we've been doing this so long, we've kind of grown numb to it, or we don't we don't
Oh
realize
yeah,
it.
we
We
don't
don't real.
appreciate we don't well, we do appreciate, but we don't, well, for lack of better terms, we don't appreciate it.
Yeah,
Right?
or we
And
don't see it happening, right? Like,
yeah.
because we've it's been so mundane and so routine, like we've grown accustomed to it. So when someone
Mhm.
says, "Hey, here's a different way. I got this new approach, and it's gonna look like this or whatever," like, okay, at first you're like, okay, I don't think that's gonna work, and then when it does,
Mhm.
like, wow, that really worked. Holy heck, right? And seeing that that Brett Green person actually have that on their belt, so to say,
Mhm.
you can see the spark in their eyes and whatnot, and they've caught the bug, so to speak, right?
Yes.
I see this a lot with pilots, right? I
Mhm.
hear this a lot with
Yes.
pilots,
Yes.
like,
Mhm.
I've caught the bug, or
Mhm.
I'm riding the high, so to speak. We're like,
Mhm.
yes, that's it. that's that's the one.
Yes. And
Uh,
you know, like events like that are like twofold, because not only do they like build confidence in the new mechanics, right? The ones that are attending, they obviously go back to their schools and they give their classmates or their cohort like their war stories. But not only that, bigger picture, it brings awareness to the whole field of aircraft maintenance, right? Because I'm gonna let you know, man. Like at these trade shows, these are like the competition is like a sub event at like a bigger trade show,
yep.
but the attendees of that trade show, they're drawn in. They all come from like the rest of the like showroom floor, and they're drawn in to like just the competition, right?
Hmm.
And so that's where you have like people network that are outside of aircraft maintenance, that they might be in sales, insurance, or whatever, or for operations, that they talk to these like future students, and they tell them, hey, you know, there's opportunities not just in maintenance, but at this adjacent role, right?
Yes.
So that in itself is that's where this event like serves as like it serves multiple roles in like the broader speaking field of aviation.
I'm gonna do a shameless plug on this, because
Mhm.
there's gonna be a similar trade show event that's gonna host a competition like this in
Mhm.
California, March of next year. March
Is it
of 20.
Verticon?
It's at Verticon,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So
Verticon. Yeah. Mhm.
so for those of you who are traveling in for Verticon, or those of you who are here in California that wanna be exposed to this level of aviation, or at different facets of aviation, Verticon's the place to go. Um,
Mhm.
from what I understand, they're going to be doing a competition at Verticon. It's going to be one of the smaller, air quotes, semi-final events, but that's going to be a place where you can see both the product, like the end product of what's
Mhm.
out there, and what different career fields are out there, and then you could also see the aviation mechanics in action doing XYZ maintenance events, and then
Yeah.
uh, and then for,
We're also attending that event too. Sorry to cut you off there, Six, but we're also attending that event too. I think we attended the one last year too.
perfect. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hopefully, stars align and we could all eventually see each other. So,
Yeah.
those attending, hopefully we do catch all of you there. So another shameless plug.
But
uh,
even besides the competition, like I don't know about you, but you know, it's very rare, especially aircraft mechanics working all kinds of shifts, right?
mhm.
It's very rare that we intermingle with our own. Like it's
Yes.
very rare. So to
Yes.
have that space to like have a different company, different organization, and you're like doing the same thing, whatever you're, this is where, man, like I love events like this, because you know, you hear in like mass media like all the negative, how people are different nowadays, like in the US, all that stuff. But whenever you do these events and you're like, hey, that person from the other side of the country is the same as me. We both work on aircraft, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And
Very
then
much.
you see,
Yes.
and then you talk, and it kind of builds like this sense of like camaraderie. Like I always use the word camaraderie, but camaraderie, right?
Yes. Very much. Yes. One last question to wrap this
Mhm.
episode up. When your students graduate, they earn their A&P certificates. They begin their careers throughout whatever field in aviation they decide to endeavor in. What do you hope that they remember? Not just about the maintenance itself, but about the kind of uh, foundation that they've been given, both as a professional, a teammate, a leader, so to speak, that you challenge them to become.
I always tell the students, and this is where I tell them, like, I always tell them, hey, whenever you get to your spot, whenever you become, because they will become successful, whether it's inside of aviation or outside aviation. Some of my students, a majority of them stay, but it'll be like a lie if I say everyone stays in aviation. But regardless, um, I tell them, pay it forward, pay it forward. Whatever you learn, make sure you pass it on to the next generation, to the next mechanic, right? Like the field of aviation is expected to grow, and with that, we need to bring more awareness. We need to be more mechanics. We need to be, I don't want to say nicer, but we need to be friendly with each other. Pay it forward. If I, if you got instruction under me or under one of our instructors, or whether you got it at the company you worked at, and someone went out of their way to teach you the ropes, pay it forward. Don't be that seasoned. I know it's easier said than done because once you're in your career 30 years deep working that like the overnight midnight shift, I know you're going to be like cranky, but if there's a new guy, teach him. It's not about job security. It's about promoting the camaraderie within the field of aviation, and that's something that, um, you know, when I was in the Marine Corps, like aviation, coming and learning it through there, I kind of lost. I I was a Marine's Marine, right? But when it came to aircraft maintenance, I didn't see that field as being like having camaraderie, right? It wasn't until I removed myself, went to these organizations, went to these events, to where I saw, oh, this is like a sub niche field. We are aircraft mechanics. We're all doing the same job. So how does that happen? That doesn't just happen by just talking about it. It happens by building that. It happens like organically by you passing on your knowledge, your trades, your work ethic to the next person. If you have bad work ethic, they're going to have bad work ethic. So whatever you have seen positively in the field, pay it forward, pass it to that next new person, right?
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing that I think I would tell my students for the future, like whenever they become successful in their careers.
Very well said, and that's fundamentally what we believe in as well. Like, and that's the
Mhm.
one why we have we're in the fields we're in. For you, for as far being a professor, ourselves on the
Mhm.
podcast, it's all to give this some longevity or give this some permanence, and just keep passing it along, because we don't want to be the ones with, or the last ones with our fingers on the button. So, for lack of better words, like, we want this to progress, to keep on going, for someone else to take it and run with it.
Mhm.
Because, like, I personally don't want to be the record setter, right? I don't want to be the first and only. I don't want to be the one that keeps holding the record for this and that. I want someone else to beat me. I want someone else to take that as an affront to them, and challenge to do better. You know what I mean? That sounded worse than it did in my head, but I ultimately want someone to beat me. I want you to
Same,
to feel so
same.
challenged, to feel so inflamed about this, that, like, to more or less be offended that I'm the one holding this record, so to speak, to come to my face and say, I'm gonna do this better than you. By all means, please. I want you to do this. I want you to take this as a direct challenge to you, and I want you to be so better that it inspires the next generation to do just that, if not more. If that makes any sort of
Well,
sense to anybody.
but I want to say like this like like one of the last things we say here, Six. It takes people like you to promote like the field of aviation, like right. There's only a handful of like influencers, if you want to call it, that do this kind of thing. That like I'm sure you're one of the few podcasts that does aircraft maintenance specifically. I heard of a couple others, but you're one of the few ones. There's like YouTubers such as like Stig Aviation that like they do their thing, but it's only through people like you that
Mhm.
where the next generation could see what could be if they were to become aircraft mechanics. So I applaud you you and Council and the whole Council for Maintenance crew, putting your neck out there, being one of the first to do this kind of space, because like you said, you want to like, and here I am using the word again, influence the next generation. You want someone to beat you, right?
Yep.
And likewise, you don't need to do this interview with me. I don't need to do it with you, but we do it because why? Because we're so passionate about this field that we want this field to grow.
Absolutely. Right? And shout outs to guys like Stig and Aircraft Faxo Max and all that. Like they're doing the work by showing it on the ground. Like I know how much of a time constraint that is to be able to put those kind of videos out there while in the midst of working. So shout outs to you guys for doing stuff like that. But that's not the only thing, right? That we do. There's more to it. There's more layers, and we just hope that somewhere along the lines of this conversation that it inspires you to do that and more so. Francisco, thank you so much for joining us today. The conversation about your career from starting out as a Marine Corps helicopter mechanic, getting your A&P, all the various different career fields you've touched, it not only demonstrates that whether in the military, commercial aviation, or in the classroom, that every experience can become a stepping stone to that serves something else, right? Serving others, serving yourself, serving the future as a whole. It all leads to strengthening both ourselves and the industry as a whole. So thank you again for sharing your stories with us. And for all of you out there, so one more thing before I live with one final question. Where can we find you guys at?
You could find us up at valleycollege.edu for the college. But I'm also like, I have an account on LinkedIn, so I'm also on LinkedIn. Just search Francisco Gonzalez, and I usually during the summertime I take my social media hiatus, my social media cleanse, right? My detox. Yep. But once the semester starts, I usually post more regularly. We also have an Instagram, SBVC Arrow. So our organization can be reached out there. But yeah, man, thank you for having me on, Six, and I appreciate you diving into this conversation. And I look forward to seeing your channel grow in the future. And yeah, man, thank you.
Not a problem. And for everyone else out there, hey, let us know what you guys think. Like, what sort of questions would you have liked to have known? What are your thoughts on the future of aviation? Some of the topics that we talked about. Let us know in the comments, in our social medias, our email, whichever is the easiest for you to reach us. And the best way to have conversations like this is through our Discord channel via Patreon. All our patrons out there and all the other supporters like Francisco here, they help feed this information bank. They help feed this knowledge and help us pay it forward for the industry as a whole. On that note, hey, Francisco, again, thank you for joining us. And for all of the listeners out there, thank you for listening. And we'll see you all on the next one. Bye, everybody. We'd like to take a moment to give a heartfelt shout out to our fantastic patrons. Your unwavering support is the magic behind the show, helping us produce thrilling episodes, keep our gear in top shape, and create awesome merch just for you. With special shout outs going to SaKonna, Eric Shaw, Kiel K, Daniel Liang, Mike Sherwood, Caleb Stockdale, Karma Trisciani, Dan Schubert, and Ryan Freshour. Thank you all so much for your support and your patronage. If you enjoy our show, why not join our Patreon community? You'll unlock a whole slew of perks, including access to our private Discord community, special discounts, early board access to our merch, and front row seat to our sneak peeks of our comics and other projects. And if you're feeling adventurous, don't forget to strut your stuff as an aviation aficionado by visiting our store at cancelformaintenance.com. For those who appreciate a touch of class or rugged charm, check out our affiliate at Rockwell Time at rockwelltime.com. Use the code CX4MX for 10% off your total order. If you need a headset, be it for in the aircraft or on the ground, or just need better ways to preserve your hearing, visit DalcomTech at dalcomtech.com. Got a burning topic or you'd like to be a guest on the show? Drop us a line on our contact us section at cancelformaintenance.com. We're all ears, and we're eager to bring your ideas to life. Stay connected with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, or you can follow us on Instagram and Threads at Canx, that's CANX, for Maintenance Podcast. Lastly, be sure to check out our comics on the Tapas app. we might just be the only webcomic focused on aircraft mechanics. Like, share, subscribe, and leave us your thoughts. Thank you all again for being the great community that you are. Your support means the absolute world to us, and we can't wait to catch you all on the next episode. Until then, keep them flying.